So in our next presentation, we are going to speak about my ways part 2. And I'm gonna share my screen. Share. All right. Can you all see my screen? Yeah. Let's see. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can see it. You can see it. Awesome. That's great. Okay. So we have been using the analogy of a tree, right? And we've been using a tree because it's really important for us to understand, like, what in the world is Miss Gabby talking about? Okay. So the holistic vision of me, okay, of me, of you. So go ahead and grab your hands, grab your little hands and say the holistic vision of me. Holistic means all of the above, okay? That includes your entire being. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is bearing fruit. We talked about the tree already, and we talked about the importance of the roots. We talked about the importance of the trunk. We talked about the branches, and we talked about the leaves. But we did not talk about bearing fruit. So as human beings, we bear fruit. In other words, we have positive things come out of us, right? Like the love of our parents and the love of our friends and things like that, okay? So bearing fruit. A tree that bears fruit has a season to give in abundance, but the tree must have great roots, strong trunk, and branches to produce 100 plus. So we're going to use an analogy. So right now, I'm going to need everyone to grab your paper or your notebook, and you're going to draw your hand out, okay? So draw your hand out, and we're going to do this analogy, and it's called the analogy of who you are, or who am I? All right. So draw your hand out right quick. Don't do anything too complicated, something super quick, okay? All right, so give me a thumbs up whenever you guys are ready to go. We good? Awesome. Okay. Are you ready to bear fruit? Yes or no? Yes? Maybe? Okay. So I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you how to do it. But it's very important that you are ready for it, okay? So the first thing, I talked about this tree from the beginning of all this since about 6:40. So your person consists of 5 beautiful parts. Your tree will never work. It doesn't matter if I talk about roots all day long and all night long. If you do not know these 5 parts, that is the holistic vision of who you are, your tree will be dead, okay? It will be completely dead. In Spanish, we call it hueco. Va a estar hueco, no va a haber nada, cero, okay? So physical. The first part, and if we can go to our hand, is your physical, okay? So your pinky is your physical, right? Your physical. So what is your physical? Most of the time, we think that we're worthy because of the shape that we have, because if we're skinny, if we're thick, if we're chunky, if we're this, if we're that. Well, guess what? It's not that way. I know right now, like all these apps, I don't have anything against them, okay? And all these social medias, they have a way for you to take pictures like Snapchat, and you take a really good picture of yourself, but you use a filter that gives you this beautiful smooth skin. And guess what? That's not the skin that you have, right? Well, guess what? You're not the soft skin. You're not that filter that society, that social media makes you to be. You're you know how they have this new app now where you take a picture and it curves your curves and it like brings out everything and stuff. Well, guess what? That is not you. Who you are right now and what you look like right now, it's what's more important than what the world has taught you that you should be. Okay. So in our physical, there's more to it, especially in the anatomy part. Like in our physical body, anything in our physical body that is affected because you're trying to look a certain way affects everything else. Okay. So if you stop eating because you want to be skinny, it's going to affect your other organs, and then it's going to affect everything else in your life. And I'll talk about it in just a second. So the first one was what? Your physical, and that's your pinky. So write down physical. The second one is your intellectual. Okay? Your intellectual is your brain. This brain that you have right here gives you everything that you are. Your intellectual, everything that you see is what you will become. So, I love watching Disney movies. It's just one of my things that I do. And if you guys can tell, I have a big kid inside of me, but it's a joyful kid. It's an exciting kid. It's a spontaneous kid. Does that make sense? Everything that you see is what you will become. Your brain has the control to control how you think your body looks. Your brain can make you believe that you are extremely fat and you're probably 100 pounds. Okay? Your brain can make you think that you're not worthy when you're so worthy. Every single one of you are. Every single one of you are so beautiful. But what you feed your brain is the way your whole entire body will react. Okay? So this is the machine for everything. All right. Your next one. That was your intellectual. Okay? You become what you see. So don't be watching bad stuff because you will become that. Your next one is your emotional. So your emotional self, your emotions. Sometimes girls, sometimes, okay, I'm going to say sometimes, not all the time. Girls tend to think that because I feel so sad, I don't want to talk to no one today. We think that is who we are. I want to be by myself. I'm so disgusted of people. That is not who you are. Those are your emotions. All your emotions are extremely important. It's important to be sad. It's important to be disgusted. It's important to get angry. It's important to be joyful. Did I say sad? It's important to have all of them. But it's also important to not rely on only one emotion, okay? Like, for example, we start having a boyfriend and all of a sudden our emotions change, right? We become so happy when we see them, and then when they leave, we become so sad, and the sadness controls our life completely, and then it starts controlling everything else, right? We are emotional human beings. Women are. So be careful with that one. That one is your middle finger. Okay, and if you can see, and as women, the middle finger is most of the time is really long. So be careful. Okay. The next one, your social life. Your social life is basically who's around you, who you hang with. Your physical, your persona has a lot to do with who you hang out with. Social media, that includes social media, okay? Who are your friends on social media? Who are you attracting? Who are you liking? Who are you following? All those things. If you're not social, become social. We were not brought to this earth to be by ourselves. When God made Adam, he made a woman right after that because he was not meant to be alone, okay? He made Eve. And he made Eve because that teaches us that we are social human beings. Okay, so that is your pointer finger, which is this one. And last but not least, spiritual, which is your thumb. Okay, so your spiritual self is obviously the most important. That is the most important one. But if you do not have a spiritual life, if you do not have a connection with God, with Jesus Christ at all, guess what? You're going to be very short-handed. Okay? You're going to be missing a big part of your life. Having a spiritual connection with Christ is part of your body. Okay? That tree cannot be sustained unless these 5 are balanced out. I could ask you a quick question. Which one is your strongest? Right? Pick it out. Right? I probably have a more social life than I do any of the others. But that unbalances my whole persona. What is your strongest? What finger do you hold out the most? How imbalanced are you? Without the 5, there's no way that you could continue on with your life. It's important that all 5 play an important role in your life. Any of them. But for most, having a spiritual life will definitely, do you guys remember what was the next one? Will help you have a social life as Christ made us. And then he will help us control our heart, okay, because we will fall in love with him, and he will help us control our emotions. And right after that, he will control everything that we think. He will help us control everything that we think, or the way that we act, or the things that we see, okay? And at the end, our physical, we will understand that our physical was made and is the temple of God. And it is beautiful as it is made, not as the world wants us to make it, okay? So the holistic vision of me, are you ready to bear fruit, yield positive results? It is only your choice, girls.